The shooting range on Galactic Military Academy Station 12 hummed with the familiar whir of plasma calibrators and neural targeting systems. Instructor Vexthor of the Kalthari Dominion stood with his forearms crossed, watching another group of cadets miss their marks despite using the latest generation of smart scopes that practically aimed for them. "Pathetic," he muttered, his mandibles clicking in disgust. "The targeting computer does 90% of the work, and you still cannot hit a stationary target at 500 meters. Cadet Rinal, a promising young Vexian with scales that shimmered purple with embarrassment, lowered his rifle. "Sir, the atmospheric processors are creating thermal distortions in sectors 3 through 7. "Excuses!" Vexthor's voice boomed across the range. "In real combat, do you think the enemy will wait while you recalibrate for optimal conditions? Do you think they will pause while your scope syncs with orbital satellites?" The cadets shuffled nervously, their various appendages, tentacles, and limbs fidgeting with expensive equipment that cost more than most planetary defense budgets. Vexthor had seen this pattern repeat itself for the past 15 cycles. Young warriors so dependent on technology that they had forgotten the fundamental principles of marksmanship. That was when she walked in. Lieutenant Maya Torres, human, short by Kalthari standards, barely reaching Vexthor's lower chest plates. She wore the standard-issue uniform of the Terran Defense Corps, but what caught everyone's attention was the long case she carried over her shoulder. "Ah, Lieutenant Torres," Vexthor said, his tone shifting to something that might have been curiosity. "You are early. I was not expecting the human observer until the advanced session." Maya smiled, a strange gesture that showed her small, flat teeth. Vexthor had learned that this meant friendliness among humans, though it looked vaguely threatening to species more accustomed to threat displays. "I heard you were running basic qualifications today, instructor. Thought I might watch, if that's acceptable." "Of course." Vexthor gestured with two of his arms toward the observation platform, but Maya did not move toward the platform. Instead, she set her case down and began opening it. The cadets craned their necks, pseudopods, and optical stalks to see what kind of advanced Terran weaponry she might possess. Humans had a reputation. They had only joined the Galactic Coalition 70 cycles ago, but their military tactics had already become legendary. Terrifying. Effective. What Maya pulled from the case made several cadets actually laugh. It was a rifle, sort of, made of wood. Actual organic wood, preserved and polished to a deep brown sheen. Metal components gleamed, yes, but they were simple, mechanical. There were no power cells, no holographic displays, no neural interfaces, just iron, steel, wood, and glass. "What is that?" Cadet Jix, a Ploxian, with excellent vision across 7 spectrums, could not contain his amusement. "Is that a museum piece?" Maya ran her hand along the rifle's stock with obvious affection. "This is a Remington 700, bolt action, 3006 caliber. Been in my family for about 200 Earth years." 200 years. Rinal's jaw hung open, quite literally, as his species had very flexible mandible structures. "That weapon is older than most of our grandparents." "Yep." Maya worked the bolt, and the smooth mechanical action made a satisfying snick-clack sound that echoed in the suddenly quiet range. "My great-great-grandfather used this for hunting. My grandfather carried it in the resource wars. My mom taught me to shoot with it when I was 8. Vexthor felt a tingle of interest creep up his spine. "Lieutenant, what exactly are you proposing?" "Well, instructor, I could not help but notice your cadets are having trouble with their fancy gear. Maybe they need to see what shooting looks like when you strip away all the computers and assistance programs." She loaded a single brass cartridge into the chamber. The cadets watched the primitive ammunition like it was a historical artifact come to life. "Mind if I take a few shots?" "By all means." Vexthor was curious now, very curious. He had heard stories about human marksmanship, but he had never witnessed it personally. Maya approached the firing line and dropped into a prone position with fluid grace. No standing support frames, no gyroscopic stabilizers. Just her body pressed against the hard floor, the ancient rifle tucked firmly against her shoulder. "Targets at 500 meters, Vexthor announced, same as the cadets were attempting. 500? Maya did not even look up. "That is barely a warm-up shot, instructor. Perhaps for your next demonstration, you can be more ambitious. For now, please proceed." The range fell silent. Even the atmospheric processors seemed to quiet their humming. Maya's eye pressed against the scope, that ancient glass and metal tube that had no computer, no rangefinder, no windage calculator, no thermal compensators. Just magnification and crosshairs. Her finger touched the trigger. The rifle barked. It was a sharp, violent crack that made several cadets jump. No plasma whisper, no laser hum, just an explosive chemical reaction that hurled a lead projectile downrange at speeds that would make most species question the sanity of the weapon's designer. Downrange, the target's center mass indicator lit up. Perfect hit. Dead center. "Lucky shot," Zix muttered, but his voice lacked conviction. Maya worked the bolt, ejecting the spent casing in an arc of gleaming brass. Another cartridge slid into the chamber. Another shot. Another perfect hit. She fired 5 times in rapid succession, each time working that manual bolt action, each time placing her round exactly where she intended. 5 shots. 5 perfect hits. 0 misses. Vexthor pulled up the range. Computer's analysis. His eyes widened. All 4 of them. Impossible. "What?" Rinal leaned over to see the display. "The grouping," Vexthor said slowly. All 5 shots landed within a 3-centimeter circle, at 500 meters. With a ballistic projectile weapon, with iron sights and manual operation. Zix made a rude sound with his air bladders. The targeting system must be compensating for her. The range computer is probably giving her assistance. Maya stood up, brushing dust from her uniform. "Instructor, would you like to verify that my rifle has no electronic components whatsoever? No connection to any network? No assistance from your range systems?" Vexthor examined the weapon carefully with his scanner. After a moment, he looked up at the assembled cadets. "She is correct. This weapon is entirely mechanical. It receives no data feeds, no targeting assistance, no compensation algorithms, nothing." The shooting range had gone from loud with confident chatter to dead silent. Maya smiled again. "Want to see something fun?" "Define fun," Vexthor said carefully. "Set up targets at 1,000 meters." Several cadets gasped. 1,000 meters was advanced sniper range. Even with smart scopes and computer assistance, hitting targets at that distance required exceptional skill. The thermal distortions, atmospheric turbulence, projectile drop, Coriolis effect from the station's rotation, all of it combined to make shots at that range extraordinarily difficult. "Lieutenant Torres, I should inform you that our best cadets, using the most advanced targeting systems available, have an approximate hit rate of 60% at 1,000 meters. "What is your record?" Maya asked. Vexthor clicked his mandibles with pride. 82%. I have been an instructor for 27 cycles. "Good to know." Maya dropped back into position. "Set up the targets, please." The range computer activated targets at the far end of the facility. From where Maya lay, they looked like tiny dots. Even the cadets with enhanced visual capabilities struggled to see them clearly without magnification. Maya made a few adjustments to her scope. Manual adjustments, turning tiny knobs with her fingers. No computer calculations, no satellite weather data, just her eyes, her experience, and apparently some kind of terrifying human intuition that the rest of the galaxy was only beginning to understand. She fired. The distant target lit up. Center mass. Perfect hit. Again, Vex Thor whispered. Maya worked the bolt. Fired again. Another hit. She continued, methodical and unhurried, working that ancient mechanical action like it was an extension of her own body. The spent brass casings piled up next to her, each one representing a perfect shot that made the cadets question everything they had learned about modern warfare. 10 shots, 10 hits, 100% accuracy. The range computer began making sounds it should not make. Vex Thor pulled up the EEE analysis again and felt his blood run cold. "What is it?" Rinal asked. "The computer cannot track her projectiles properly," Vex Thor said, his voice barely above a whisper. "The ballistic trajectory is so precise, the velocity so consistent, that our advanced sensors are having difficulty believing that a manually operated weapon is producing these results. The system thinks there is a malfunction." Zix was not laughing anymore. "How is that possible?" Maya stood up again, this time with a slight grin that suggested she was enjoying herself. "Want to make it interesting, instructor?" Vex Thor felt a challenge rising in his chest. He was Kalthari. His people had conquered 17 star systems through superior military might. He was not about to be shown up by a human with an antique. "What do you propose?" 1,500 meters, moving targets. You pick the difficulty." The cadets erupted in excited chatter. 1,500 meters was beyond their training curriculum. That was special operations territory, elite sniper range, and she wanted moving targets? Vex Thor's pride made the decision for him. "Very well, Lieutenant, but I will be shooting as well, with my personal rifle." He retrieved his weapon from his locker, a sleek Kalthari masterpiece of engineering that cost more than a small spacecraft. Neural interface, quantum targeting computer, plasma accelerator that could punch through starship hulls. "We will each take 5 shots. Whoever has the better accuracy wins." "What are the stakes?" Maya asked. "If I win, you give a full presentation to my cadets about human weapons technology." "And if I win," Vex Thor thought for a moment, "I will run a full cycle wearing a shirt that says, 'Humans do it better.'" The cadets absolutely lost their composure at that. Even Maya laughed, a bright sound that seemed to ease some of the tension in the room. "Deal, but I get to design the shirt." "Acceptable." The range computer set up the parameters. 5 targets, 1,500 meters distance, moving at variable speeds, random patterns, wind simulation at 15 kilometers per hour with gusts up to 25. This was as close to real combat conditions as the range could simulate. Vexithor went first. He activated his neural interface, feeling the familiar rush as the targeting computer synced with his brain. Crosshairs appeared in his vision, calculating trajectories faster than conscious thought. He fired. The plasma bolt screamed downrange and struck a moving target. Hit. He fired 4 more times. 3 more hits. 1 miss. 4 out of 5. 80%. Not his best performance, but respectable given the conditions. The cadets applauded respectfully. Then it was Maya's turn. She took her position, that ancient rifle resting comfortably in her grip. No neural interface, no computer assistance, just her, the weapon, and whatever was happening in that terrifying human brain of hers. She watched the targets move, Her eyes tracked their patterns. 15 seconds passed. 30. The cadets grew restless. Was she freezing up? Had she finally realized the challenge was beyond her capabilities? Then she fired. Hit. The moving target jerked as the bullet struck dead center. She worked the bolt. Fired again. Hit. Again. Hit. Again. Hit. One target left. It was moving faster than the others, zigzagging in an evasive pattern that would make even computer-assisted targeting difficult. Maya breathed slowly. Once. Twice. Her finger touched the trigger. The rifle cracked. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the target lit up. Perfect center mass hit. 5 for 5. 100% accuracy. On moving targets. At 1,500 meters. With a 200-year-old rifle that had no business being this effective. The range fell into stunned silence. Vexthor set down his weapon slowly. He pulled up the computer analysis, hoping it would give him some rational explanation for what he had just witnessed. The data made him feel dizzy. "Show us," Rinal said quietly. Vexthor displayed the results on the main screen. The cadets crowded around, unable to believe what they were seeing. Maya's shot pattern was not just accurate, it was impossibly precise. The computer had tracked the projectile's velocity, trajectory, and impact point for each shot. The calculations showed that she had compensated for wind, rotation, target movement, temperature variations, and a dozen other factors. Mentally, in her head, without assistance. The computer estimates, Vexthor said slowly, that to achieve these results without technological assistance would require processing power equivalent to a tactical combat AI. The probability of a biological entity performing these calculations in real time is, according to our systems, 0.0003%. "But I just did it," Maya said cheerfully. "So I guess your computer needs better math." Zix finally found his voice. "How? How is this possible?" Maya sat down on a bench and began cleaning her rifle with a cloth. The casual nature of her actions somehow made everything more unsettling. Practice. Lots of practice. My mom started teaching me when I was 8 years old. We would go out to the range every weekend. She taught me how to read wind, how to calculate drop, how to feel the shot before I took it. No computers, no assistance, just repetition until it became instinct. Instinct? Vexthor sat down next to her, his massive frame making the bench creak. "Lieutenant, what you just did requires calculations that our best AI systems struggle with. You are telling me this is instinct?" "Humans are good at pattern recognition, instructor. We have been throwing rocks at things we want to kill for millions of years. Shooting is just throwing really fast, really accurate rocks. You do it enough times, your brain figures out the patterns without you having to think about it consciously." Rinal approached slowly, his scales shifting to colors that indicated deep confusion and respect. "Lieutenant Torres, I must apologize. I laughed at your weapon. I underestimated you." "Don't worry about it," Maya said easily. "Everyone does the first time. That's kind of the point." "What do you mean?" Vexthor asked. Maya looked up at the assembled cadets, and her smile had changed. It was no longer friendly. It was the smile of a predator who had just revealed she had been hunting all along. "You all rely on your technology, your smart scopes, your targeting computers, your AI assistants. That's great, right up until someone hacks your systems, or you lose power, or your equipment fails in the field. Then, what do you do?" The cadets had no answer. Humans learned a long time ago that technology can fail. So we train with the basics first. We make sure that even if all our fancy gear breaks down, we can still fight. We can still shoot. We can still win. She held up her rifle. This weapon has no electronics to hack, no power source to disable, no network connection to jam. It just works. Every time. As long as I have ammunition and the mechanical components are intact, I can keep shooting. Vexthor felt something like fear crawl up his spine. This is why humans are so terrifying in combat. One of the reasons, Maya agreed. The galaxy builds better and better technology, and that is fine. But humans, we remember that at the end of the day, wars are won by the beings holding the weapons, not by the weapons themselves. You can give me the fanciest rifle in the galaxy, and I will use it. But if you take it away, I will pick up something else and still be just as dangerous. She stood up and slung her rifle over her shoulder. Now, about that shirt design, instructor. I am thinking bright pink with sparkles. Maybe a cartoon human giving a thumbs up. Really make it pop. The cadets burst into laughter, the tension finally breaking. Vexthor clicked his mandibles in what might have been a chuckle. You humans are insufferable. Yeah, Maya said, heading toward the door. But we are really good shots. As she left, the cadets gathered around Vexthor, all of them talking at once. Could they learn to shoot like that? Was it really possible? How long would it take? Vexthor held up all four hands for silence. You saw what happens when skill meets determination, when training becomes instinct. That is what I have been trying to teach you all cycle. He paused, then added quietly, and apparently, that is what humans have been teaching each other for their entire existence. He looked at the door where Maya had exited, then back at his cadets. Tomorrow, we begin training without computer assistance. You will learn to shoot the way your ancestors did, the way humans still do. If we are to stand beside them in battle, we must understand what makes them so effective. Rin-Al raised a foreclaw hesitantly. Sir, will we ever be as good as Lieutenant Torres? Vexthor considered this carefully. Probably not. But we will be better than we are now. And that is the point. 3 months had passed since Maya Torres had humbled an entire class of cadets with a rifle older than most of their service records. Word had spread through Station 12 like wildfire through a dry forest. The human with the ancient weapon. The shooter who made computers look inadequate. The woman who hit targets that tracking systems could not follow. Now, Maya found herself standing in front of Admiral Kreshtar, a 7-foot-tall Vildoran whose reputation for being unimpressed by anything was legendary throughout the fleet. Lieutenant Torres. The Admiral's voice rumbled like distant thunder. I have read Instructor Vexthor's report. Quite the performance at the range. Thank you, sir. Maya stood at attention, her hands clasped behind her back. Do not thank me yet. Kreshtar turned to face her fully, his 3 eyes studying her with uncomfortable intensity. We have a situation, one that requires your particular set of skills. A holographic display flickered to life between them. It showed a planet, designation Thresh 9, covered in dense jungle and violent storm systems. Rebel forces have taken hostages at a research facility here. 12 scientists, mixed species. They are demanding the release of political prisoners and threatening to execute one hostage every 24 hours if their demands are not met. Maya studied the display carefully. What is the tactical situation? Complicated. Kreshtar zoomed in on a mountainous region surrounded by nearly impenetrable forest. The facility sits on a plateau approximately 2,000 meters above sea level. The rebels have established defensive positions with advanced sensor arrays. Any conventional approach will be detected long before our forces arrive. Orbital bombardment is not an option due to the hostages. Drop pods would be seen coming from kilometers away. So you need someone who can get close without being detected. Precisely. The Admiral changed the image to show thermal scans and energy signatures. Their sensors are designed to detect powered armor, vehicles, plasma weapons, energy shields, everything our standard military uses. But they are not calibrated for older technology. Maya understood immediately. You want me to go in with non-electronic weapons. You and a small team. Vexthor has volunteered to accompany you, along with 3 of his best cadets. All of them have been training with mechanical weapons for the past 3 months. Kreshitar's central eye fixed on her. They will never be as proficient as you, but they have learned enough to be effective. When do we leave? 4 hours. Your transport is being prepared now. The Admiral paused, something like concern crossing his alien features. Lieutenant, I must be honest. This mission has a projected survival rate of 38%. The rebels are well armed and highly motivated. Even with the element of surprise, you will be outnumbered 15-1. Maya allowed herself a small smile. Sir, my ancestors faced worse odds with less equipment. We will manage. Your confidence is either inspiring or terrifying. I have not decided which. Kreshtar dismissed the hologram. Brief your team. You have access to any equipment you require from the armory, within reason. Define reason. The Admiral actually laughed, a sound like grinding stone. Nothing that will destabilize planetary governments or violate the Geneva Conventions. The Geneva Conventions are Earth-specific treaties, sir. Then, do not make me create new ones. Kreshtar turned back to his desk. Dismissed, Lieutenant. And Torres, bring those people home. Yes, sir. 4 hours later, Maya stood in the armory with her team. Vexthor looked almost comfortable holding a bolt-action rifle now, though it was sized for his larger frame. The 3 cadets, Rin L, a female Cressian named Talus, and a Horvath called Dren, all carried similar weapons with varying degrees of confidence. These feel so primitive, Dren muttered, working his rifle's bolt action for the 100th time. His species typically had 6 fingers per hand, which made the human-designed weapons awkward for him. Primitive kept my species alive for 10,000 years before we figured out electricity, Maya said, checking her scope's alignment. Primitive works. Talus, who had natural night vision superior to most species, adjusted the iron sights on her rifle. I still do not understand how you calculate all the variables without a computer. You stop thinking of them as calculations. Maya loaded rounds into a magazine with practiced efficiency. You start feeling them. The wind on your face tells you drift. The weight of the air tells you density. The sound of your breathing tells you rhythm. It all becomes one sense, not separate problems to solve. Vexthor checked his equipment one final time. The lieutenant is correct. I have improved significantly since abandoning my reliance on targeting computers. I am nowhere near her level, but I can now hit targets at 1,000 meters with 70% accuracy using only manual systems. 70% is good, Maya said encouragingly. That's better than most human military snipers after basic training. The transport ship shuddered as it entered Thresh 9's atmosphere. The pilot, a nervous Plixian named Zot, spoke over the intercom. Approaching drop zone. Weather is terrible. Winds gusting to 40 kilometers per hour. Visibility near 0. Perfect for not being seen. Terrible for not crashing. Just get us close, Maya said. We will handle the rest. The ship descended through violent storms, buffeted by winds that would have grounded most civilian craft. But military transports were built for worse, and Zot proved his skill by setting them down on a rocky outcrop just 3 kilometers from the target facility. "This is as close as I can get without triggering their sensors," Zot said. "I will maintain orbit and monitor for your extraction signal." The team disembarked into howling wind and rain. The jungle around them was alive with sounds that no human had ever evolved to hear naturally. Calls and screams from native fauna that ranged from unsettling to genuinely terrifying. Maya took point, moving through the dense vegetation with surprising silence, despite the hostile environment. The others followed, trying to match her fluid movement through terrain that fought them at every step. 2 hours of hard hiking brought them to a ridge overlooking the research facility. Maya pulled out old-fashioned binoculars, actual glass lenses, and mechanical focus to survey the target. The facility was a cluster of buildings surrounded by hastily erected barricades. Rebel soldiers patrolled the perimeter, armed with modern plasma rifles and wearing light combat armor. Maya counted 17 visible hostiles. Intel suggested at least 30 total. "They have guards on the roof," Rinal whispered, his enhanced vision picking out details Maya's binoculars missed. 2 positions, 4 soldiers each. "Sensor array on the main building's northwest corner," Tallis added. "Active scanning. But look at the configuration. It is designed for detecting energy weapons and electronic signatures." Vexthor studied the layout with a tactical eye. "The hostages are likely in the central structure. It has the fewest windows and most secure approaches. Classic defensive positioning." Maya lowered her binoculars. "Here's the plan. We hit them at dawn. Low light will make their technological advantages less useful. Dren and Tallis, you take positions on this ridge. You have the longest effective range with your species' natural abilities. Eliminate the roof guards first, quietly. Vexthor and Rinal, you approach from the east. I will come from the west. We converge on the central building simultaneously." "What about their sensor arrays?" Dren asked. "That is the beauty of this." Maya patted her rifle. "We are not emitting any electronic signatures, no powered armor, no energy weapons, no communication devices beyond basic radio that they will mistake for natural atmospheric interference. To their sensors, we will look like local wildlife until we start shooting." They settled in to wait for dawn, taking turns on watch. During Maya's shift, Vexthor approached and sat beside her. "I have been meaning to ask," the Kalthari said quietly. "Why do humans still train with these weapons? You have access to the same technology as the rest of the galaxy. Better, in some cases. Why maintain these old skills?" Maya was quiet for a moment, watching the rain fall. "My people have a saying. Those who forget history are doomed to repeat it. We fought wars with these weapons. Terrible wars. Wars that killed millions. We remember that. We remember how deadly they are, how personal, how final. Energy weapons feel clean. Point and shoot. The target just disappears. But bullets? Bullets are messy. They remind us what violence really costs. That seems like a strange reason to maintain proficiency." "Maybe." Maya checked her rifle's action, more out of habit than necessity. "Or maybe it keeps us honest, keeps us from forgetting that every shot we take, every life we end, matters. The technology does not do the killing. We do. And we need to own that." Vexithor clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. "Your species thinks about violence differently than most in the galaxy. We have had a lot of practice." Maya's voice was soft. "We were killing each other very efficiently long before we reached the stars. That experience taught us things. Dark things. Useful things." Dawn came slowly, filtering through storm clouds that showed no sign of clearing. perfect conditions. Maya signaled the team into position. Dren and Talus settled into their sniper nests, while Vexthor and Rinal began their careful approach through the jungle. Maya moved west, becoming one with the shadows and rain. She reached her position 200 meters from the facility's western wall. Through her scope, she could see a guard patrol, 2 rebels walking a lazy circuit, confident in their sensor arrays and superior firepower. Her radio crackled with soft static. Talus's voice, barely above a whisper. "In position. I have eyes on north roof guards." "South roof covered," Dren confirmed. "East approach ready," Vexthor said. Maya watched the sky, waited for the light to reach that perfect moment. Not too dark, not too bright, just right. "Execute," she whispered. Talus fired first. Her rifle cracked, and one of the north roof guards dropped without a sound. She worked her bolt, fired again. The second guard fell. Dren eliminated the south guards with equal efficiency. The patrol near Maya had frozen, confused by sounds that should not exist. Rifles firing? With bullets? What kind of attack was this? Maya did not give them time to figure it out. 2 shots, 2 bodies. Alarms finally began to sound as the rebels realized they were under attack. But they were looking for energy signatures, for powered armor, for conventional military threats. They were not prepared for 5 shooters with mechanical weapons who could hit targets their computers could not track. Maya moved forward, shooting on the move. A rebel appeared in a doorway. She fired from the hip, an impossible shot that caught him center mass. He went down, and she was already through the door, clearing corners like her grandfather had taught her in that old farmhouse range. Vexthor came through the east entrance, his rifle barking with authority. His accuracy was not as perfect as Maya's, but his rate of fire was impressive. Rebels fell back, confused and terrified by an enemy they could not properly target. Rinal proved surprisingly effective in close quarters, his species' natural agility allowing him to move faster than the rebels could track. His shots were measured, careful, each one counting. The team converged on the central building. Rebel forces rallied, returning fire with plasma weapons that lit up the stormy morning. But they were firing at shadows, at enemies who moved with purpose and precision, who did not rely on computer-assisted targeting to find their marks. Maya breached the main door to find 8 rebels holding 12 terrified scientists at gunpoint. The rebel leader, a scarred Vraxian, had his weapon pressed against a young researcher's head. "Stop, or I execute them all!" he shouted. Maya did not stop. She walked forward, rifle at the low ready, seemingly casual. "No, you will not. I will kill them. You might try." Maya's voice was conversational, almost friendly. "But here's the thing about mechanical weapons. They are fast. Really fast. And I am very good with mine." The Vraxian's hand tightened on his plasma rifle. Maya moved. 1 shot. The Vraxian's weapon tumbled from his suddenly numb hand. She had shot it, actually hit the weapon itself, disabling it without harming anyone. The other rebels panicked, raising weapons. But Vexthor and Rinal were already there, firing with discipline and control. In seconds, it was over. The hostages huddled together, shocked but alive. All 12 of them. "Transport, this is ground team," Maya said into her radio. "Objective secured. 12 packages ready for pickup. Hot LZ, but manageable." Zot's relieved voice crackled back. "Acknowledged. Inbound in 3 minutes." The extraction was textbook perfect. The remaining rebels had lost their will to fight, after seeing their leadership eliminated by weapons they barely understood. By the time reinforcements arrived, the transport was already breaking atmosphere. Back on Station 12, Admiral Crescitar met them in the hangar. His 3 eyes studied the team, all of them exhausted, muddy, but victorious. "Mission success," he said simply. "All hostages recovered. Rebel forces neutralized. 0 friendly casualties." He turned to Maya. "Your unorthodox approach worked, Lieutenant." "Sometimes the old ways are the best ways, sir." "Perhaps." Kreshatar looked at Vexthor and the cadets. "Instructor, I am authorizing expansion of your mechanical weapons training program. What I saw today suggests we have been overlooking valuable tactical options." Vexthor clicked his mandibles with satisfaction. "It will be done, Admiral." As they walked toward debriefing, Rinal approached Maya hesitantly. "Lieutenant, I need to apologize again. When I first saw your rifle, I thought it was a joke, a relic. I did not understand." Maya smiled, slinging her ancient Remington over her shoulder. "That's okay. Most people do not understand until they see it in action. This rifle has been keeping my family alive for 2 centuries. Today, it helped keep yours alive, too." "Will you teach us more?" Talus asked eagerly. "There is clearly much we do not know about combat without technology." "That's why I am here." Maya looked at her rifle with obvious affection. "Humans learned a long time ago that the most dangerous weapon in any fight is not the gun. It is the person holding it. Teach someone to rely on themselves instead of their equipment, and you create a warrior who can fight anywhere, with anything." Vexthor placed one of his large hands on her shoulder, a gesture of respect among his people. "I wore your shirt for a full cycle, as promised. Every being on this station saw it." Many laughed. "Did it bother you?" "At first." He clicked his mandibles in what she had learned was amusement. "Then I realized you were teaching a lesson with that as well. Pride is worthless if it prevents learning. I was proud of my technology, my advanced weapons. You showed me I had forgotten the fundamentals. The shirt reminded me daily not to make that mistake again." "Good." Maya grinned. "Because I had 5 more designs made, just in case I needed to challenge you again." The whole team laughed, the sound echoing through the hangar. Soldiers from a dozen different species stopped to watch the strange group. The human with her ancient rifle. The Kalthari instructor who had learned humility. The cadets who had discovered that sometimes the most advanced technology is knowing you do not need it. Later, in her quarters, Maya disassembled her rifle for cleaning. Each piece came apart, with practiced ease, each component familiar as her own heartbeat. She cleaned the barrel, oiled the action, checked the stock for damage. This weapon had seen her great-great-grandfather through Earth's resource wars, had hung over her grandfather's fireplace, had taught her mother to shoot, had taught her to shoot, and now it had helped save lives light years from where it was originally crafted. 200 years old. Primitive by galactic standards, but still lethal, still reliable, still effective, just like the humans who carried it. She reassembled the rifle, worked the bolt one final time, and set it carefully in its case. Tomorrow, she would begin teaching Vexthor's expanded class. More cadets who thought technology was the answer to everything. More young warriors who needed to learn that sometimes the best weapon is the one that just works, no matter what. Maya smiled to herself. The galaxy was learning that humans brought more than just their fancy starships and advanced AI to the coalition. They brought history, experience, hard-won lessons written in blood and brass casings. They brought the understanding that warfare was not about having the best technology. It was about having the will to use whatever you had with maximum effect. About training until skill became instinct. About never forgetting that at the end of the day, battles were won by warriors, not by their weapons. And if that meant teaching the entire galactic military to shoot like humans, with iron sights and manual bolts and chemical propellants older than most civilizations? Well, Maya thought, that just meant the galaxy was finally learning what humanity had known all along. Sometimes the simplest answer is the deadliest one. And humans? Humans were very, very good at simple. She closed her eyes, already planning tomorrow's lesson. There was so much to teach, so much the galaxy needed to learn. And she had all the time in the world. Her rifle would still be working 200 years from now, after all. Just like the lessons it represented. Just like the humans who refused to forget where they came from, no matter how far they traveled. The old ways, the simple ways, the human ways. They had conquered Earth. Now, slowly but surely, they were teaching the galaxy what real marksmanship looked like. One perfect shot at a time.